So this is me with my second try ever of comedic yoga. And I haven't done a lot of research, admittedly. I've just been looking at some YouTube videos and some blogs about African yoga and specifically the yoga images that were found on, I guess, on walls in ancient Kemet, which was the original name for modern day Egypt. And I've always been intrigued by the idea of societies of people who kept traditions and cultures alive for so many years, particularly with Kemet being a civilization of Black Africans who for 3,000 years lived and thrived and gave the world so much. And so I'm like, whatever they were doing, I want to explore that for myself to feel that out and see if that fits whatever it is that I am. And so the practice, as you can see here, is so imperfect for me. And that's why I wanted to, instead of just talking to you sort of eye to eye, I wanted you to see me in my imperfect practice because it's beautiful and it's new. And I think it's a great reflection of, for me anyway, the newness, the approach, the blank slate, the new baby approach that I'm going to be taking into this 20-day spiritual self-care challenge. Because even though I've done it before, if you watched the first video, you saw that in 2013, I did a 31-day top shelf me project where I did raw vegan food, sun cooked food, whatever you want to call it, for the entire 31 days. And it really changed my life. It changed my body. I didn't do it for weight loss, but I haven't gone over a certain weight. It's like my body just understands in a better way what to do to shed itself of anything extra. Foods that I knew my body didn't really like, but I could eat them anyway, like chocolate. After I did the fruitarian feast, I couldn't even do that. Like my body was just adamant about protecting itself in a way that I wasn't used to, but I love it. And 2 years later, I feel ready for it again because I've gone through so many things in the past 2 years and grown so much as a person. And to take this level of knowledge of self that I've gained and put it in such a space of surrender, which is what this is for me. It just opens me up spiritually. It opens me up emotionally. It opens me up creatively to really get into who it is that I'm showing up as right now and what that means in terms of the actions that I want to take towards the feelings I want to experience more often. And you'll hear me say throughout the whole course that this whole thing is about how you want to feel. And so for me, as I look at the video of myself, I'm watching the video as I'm recording this, in this space of imperfection where, my legs are bent where they should be straight, or, I'm toppling over in a couple of instances, and my daughter Sage, who's just turned 9, is recording for me, and she and I are also talking throughout the video, so you'll see my mouth move because we're doing our math. She's working on her times tables. And so we use the opportunity to hang out together. She didn't want to write it down today. And we unschooling. So I said, okay, well, I'm about to practice my yoga outside. You can join me and we can do a little bit of verbal interaction with the math. And she was like, yes, perfect. That's great. And she even put her workout clothes on, which is like all kind of fanciness to join me. So that's how we decided to work on math. And this is also me in this perfectly imperfect practice. So I promised that I would share what my emotional trauma, as I call it, is that I'm bringing to the spiritual table here for this 20-day challenge. And for me, it was about releasing expectation in a much bigger way than I've ever done before. So in June of 2014, I did my first big summit. I did the Radical Self-Expression Summit, June 14th of 2014 in Atlanta. And it was just such a powerful experience. My God, the women and men and children who came together to make this thing happen, I get all goosebumps and my nose starts to burn like I'm about to cry every time I think about it. But the summit was awesome. And, I'll put a link to some of the pictures from the summit, but it was just a celebration of women who risk expression. I wanted to talk about some of the women in my circle, whether I'd interacted with them consistently or just happened upon them once or twice. I was just really taken in a beautiful way by what they do and how they show up in the world. And I wanted to share that particular type of energy with Atlanta and use it as an opportunity to explain what I call radical self-expression and talk about why I know it to be important for the individual and also for the communities of which we are all part. And that event taught me so much, but I also had so much expectation and so many labels around what the summit would be for me and for my business, at the Life Design Agency. And I didn't amass millions of dollars, even thousands of dollars as a result of the summit. But I think I expected it to be like my big break, and when it didn't show up the way that I'd expected it to show up after everything was done, I panicked and I went into this funk where I can normally wrap myself in my feelings, feel how I feel, and then eventually back up and remember myself and remember that I trust my process and remember that I'm divinely supported by God because I am of God. I usually can back myself out of the panic space and go back to that remembering, that old knowing that you hear me talk about in this course. But this time I couldn't. The panic just built upon itself. And I even have some, poetry and just some essays that I wrote during that time. And I'll put a link to my SoundCloud page where I shared some of that. But I couldn't come out of it weeks upon weeks. And I was just going into this funk. But I needed to go there because on the other side of that was a whole lot more of me and a whole lot more recognition of the areas in my life that needed some spiritual shoring up, the areas of self-care that really needed to focus on my spiritual self and not so much on the management of my tangible life, my everyday life. It was about the bigger picture, how I want to feel, how I am connected to my spiritual self, how God shows up, how I hear God in my life. I feel like I wasn't walking towards that in the way that I would like to, or I was walking towards that and that's why it led me there. I don't know. But whatever it was and whatever it is, I'm very grateful because I'm so much more blank. I'm so much more of a blank slate than I was before, which is beautiful because it opens me up to curiosity at a different level. And it also gives me so much space to learn in a way that doesn't have all this expectation around it. So I'm filled with surprise and excitement about everything that I'm doing. Teaching this course, this is my 4th course in a very short time. I think the first one went up maybe a year ago, and then the last 2 or 3 courses went up in a matter of months. And I'm really loving the process, and it's so new. And like the first course I had, I made like $20 the first month. And I was just tinkering. I felt like I was tinkering, and then I was connecting with other people and myself, hence this spiritual practice. So that's what the 20 days are about for me, y'all. Just really diving more into my spirituality, right on the other side of what I learned as a result of the emotional trauma of my expectation around the summit. So surrendering that to God, surrendering that to universe, and using 20 days of high raw vegan food. So I'm not doing 100% fruitarian. I will be doing some cooked vegan food. And my normal diet outside of the 20-day is I eat chicken, I eat fish, and of course rice and grains and all of that. And I do eat a lot of fruit and vegetables generally, but I'm going to be focusing on fruit and vegetables this time with some vegan meals in between. So that's where I am in my journey, and I invite you to leave in the discussion section or to email me directly and let me know what is it that you're going to be focusing on the 20 days, and what will you be doing for that focus? Okay? What will you do to go face to face with whatever spiritual goal you set for 20 days straight? I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for being in this space.